leadership in general. He honestly believes it's hard to teach it. But now, that's where we get down to what he thinks. Alright, yeah, granted, it's hard to teach learning leadership or effective leadership or transformational leadership, but that's only part of the token. The other part of the token is learning. He's fully believing that it can be learned, that you can figure it out, you can get the clues, the keys right, and then start moving on forward and actually becoming effective and actually doing everything. He says that there are basically two ways of learning, basically individual and organizational. With the individual part, you have to be motivated, you actually have to have high spirits to actually want to learn how to become a effective leader, or how to become a manager, or that position. You have to have the motivation and desire to actually get that far, and it would help to have some skills in that area too. But then after that, the organizational drive, this is where he gets into a little bit about feedback and things like that. The organization has to set up some sort of way where you can face adversity and either fall on your face and pick yourself up, or you can see it and then the adversity and you can overcome it and you can change from it, adapt from it. That's what he said the organizations have to do. Which gets back to the whole, what he talked about a little bit earlier before we got to the two-part like that. But he also talks about how subordinates and leaders themselves, when they're asking peers for advice or how to improve what they've done, most of the time, he says, here's a quote, actually, quote, in my own research there was what I call a 70% factor. 70% of hundreds of executives I have surveyed over the past 15 years, and it remains a constant over time, do not offer feedback or advice that is at an angle to the norms and preference of the boss, even when they know that following a certain course will lead to disaster. And basically what that means is they don't want to piss off their boss. They don't want to say something wrong that the boss won't like. And it's a fear factor. They're afraid of that. If they do that, that it's going to be their job. Or that their boss is going to be hostile towards them now, and every idea they come up with in the future won't get the proper credit or won't be properly looked at. That's what he's saying, that's got to change though. Which goes back to the whole democratic and humanistic philosophy that he created, and he's actually endeavoring to get out there, because people have to be able to get that feedback and be like, hey, this part of the thing is wrong, or hey, I think we can do this better, and actually be willing to accept that, not as criticism or hostility, but as, hey, thanks man, you're making my position better, you're making my process better, which in turn helps you get better, and if we both help each other get better, the organization gets better. That's what he's trying to get at, a leadership that actually helps people move forward and actually become more effective in what they're doing. Now, he actually goes back to the whole learning how to become an effective leader, and back to the adversity thing. Yes, I fully believe that. I've been there, I've done that. That if you fall on your face, you have to learn to get back up and start over again. And that's what he said. He's followed numerous people, numerous executives that he's consulted or advised, and that's what they've done. They fall on the face and they get back up. They fall on the face again, they get back up again. And after that, they either get it the first time, second time, however many times it takes, but they learn and they adapt, and that's when that makes them more effective. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it's faster. Each person's different. You got to be able to roll with it, and that's what he said. That once you fall down, you pick yourself up and you learn what you need to do to actually move on and become effective. Now, there is something called coaching that he brings up in this interview as well. You have to actually have a good mentor or good coach that's willing to help you have a kind of reflective period or a feedback period. Someone who's actually going to be able to tell you, yes, you did this good, or this was great, I love this, or hey, this wasn't so good, I saw the effects of this, you should have handled it differently. Well, could you have maybe done it differently? That's what he's talking about. You got to have a coach or a mentor, but you don't want someone who's going to be regimented, hey, this is what you got to do to become good like me. No, it's got to be someone who's going to be open-minded, who's actually going to listen to you and actually see what you're talking about, and then actually respond in kind. Either be like, hey, that's a good idea, or no, have you tried about doing it like this, or hey, I've seen this. So it's all about being free-flowing and actually being a mentor or a coach. And that's what he says that organizations don't do nowadays. He hasn't found one yet that does that properly, or even to the extent that it needs to be done. He says that coaches are rewarded for actually bringing people up, or actually helping people become effective. That'd be a lot better out there. That organizations would be topping the charts a lot more than they are now, because they're actually home-growing their people. They're not teaching, so to speak. He doesn't really believe that, but they're learning by giving them the ability to take a chance, to face adversity. It's actually giving them the chance to learn on their own how to be within an organization, and they're going to have adversity they're going to have to face, but they're going to have someone that they can talk to, figure out what they did wrong, have like a reflection period, and have like a little feedback session. That's great, and that's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about, more of an organizational democratic system, less hierarchical and more adaptive. Because then people are going to be like, oh, well, hey, I have to move just up and down. He's saying, no, put them left to right, send them to different departments, send them overseas. That's going to be great for them. They're going to learn so fast, and they're going to learn what it takes to become effective. Effective is not just the one formula, A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3. It's going to be life-changing experiences. You got to actually learn to be very effective, to actually be able to lead others or bring out the effectiveness in other people. I think that's what it's getting down to in the core, is that for people to become effective leaders, or to have organizations that are effectively changing people or effectively changing the effectiveness of people, anything along those nature, that they actually have the time and the ability to learn on their own. They actually have to grow up, so to speak. You can't just spoon-feed them a formula anymore. It's not going to happen. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to a video briefly just about his new book that just comes out, Still Surprised. And he's going to talk a little bit about that, and that's what I'm going to end on. Thank you.
I think the two words still, and surprise have really captured most of my life, that undying sense of wonderment that what Walt Disney once referred to as that uncontaminated wonder. And I didn't even think about leading or leadership as concepts or ideas. You're playing for mortal stakes. And those officers, that's the thing that got me about leadership, who really took the pain and the time to make sure this would happen. They would have lost fewer men. What better indicator, talk about metrics of leadership behavior, what better metric is there than fatalities, unneeded fatalities? You have to learn how to, as the English put it, liaise, collaborate, work with others, partner. That's the only way you can be successful. And that's what I learned so much about. Most great leaders I've discovered, this is what I've learned from consulting around them. I've learned so much from actually spending time with exemplary leaders, is that they basically are people who inspire hope, and even when things are tough, but also look facts in the eye. They're not, they're not into denial. And they do recognize those serious, dangerous, disruptive inflection points that could bring them down. So they always got their eyes open to almost like 360 degrees, generous company. I think if that's my legacy, because basically that's what, books get yellowed and dated, but what won't ever date, ever, will be my relationships with others. Because that kind of generous company, that will, I hope, be my legacy. I think it'll give them a good picture of our world since about World War II up to the present, from Roosevelt to Obama. I think I tried to capture the zeitgeist, the culture of our country as reflected through my own experience.